You know that feeling, that relentless gnawing pressure to always be on, to be achieving, optimizing, performing, just all the time? Well, today we're going to dive deep into that. We're going to look at how this constant demand from society is having a huge and often pretty hidden impact on our mental health.
So let's kick things off with this really powerful idea from the philosopher Byung-Chul Han. What he's saying here is just, wow. In our endless chase for achievement, we've basically turned ourselves into both the archer and the target. The burnout we feel, it's not just some random accident. It's a self-inflicted wound.
So how on earth did we get to this point? In this first section, let's explore the cultural landscape we're all living in, the one that basically sets the stage for total exhaustion, a world that is always demanding more.
And at the very heart of it all is this thing we call hustle culture. You know the vibe. It's the idea that being busy is a badge of honor and taking a break, well, that's just a sign of weakness. This is the engine that's driving that pressure we all feel day in and day out.
Now here's where it gets really insidious. Han calls us the achievement subject. And what he means is, the pressure isn't just coming from a boss anymore. We've internalized it. It's like we've become our own tyrannical manager, pushing ourselves to the absolute limit. And we tell ourselves, oh, this is just me being free. This is self-improvement. But what's really happening? We're exploiting ourselves.
And this constant pressure is literally rewiring our brains. Han argues that what we proudly call multitasking is actually a huge step backward. He says we've developed hyper-attention, this scattered, frantic focus that isn't deep thought at all. It's more like a wild animal in the forest constantly scanning for threats. It puts our nervous system on high alert and completely shatters our ability to just concentrate.
Okay, so what happens when all that external pressure crashes into our internal world? Well, for people dealing with social anxiety, it creates a perfect storm. The whole world feels like a stage, and you've got a case of stage fright that never, ever ends.
And look, it's so important that we get this distinction right. This is not the same thing as being an introvert. That's just about how you recharge your batteries, right? Social anxiety is a fear-based condition. It's a deep, persistent terror of being judged. And here's the most important part. Both introverts and extroverts can have it. This image just captures that internal feeling so perfectly. Every single conversation, every meeting, even posting on social media, it all feels like you're on stage, under the spotlight, in front of a really critical audience. The pressure to be funny or smart or just on becomes this source of incredible dread. And boom, there's the connection. The achievement society demands that we perform constantly, and for someone with social anxiety, that demand pours gasoline on the very fire that defines their condition. It turns everyday life into a minefield of potential failure and judgment.
Now, there's another collision we have to talk about, and it's just as dangerous. Let's look at how the frantic pace of hustle culture intersects with the internal world of bipolar disorder.
This quote just nails it. Our hyper-caffeinated, high-octane world, this stimulant culture, can create a dangerously resonant frequency with the natural cycles of bipolar disorder. It's like two sound waves matching up and getting amplified.
So what does that mean in plain English? Well, think about it. The societal demand to be high energy, to be super productive, to always be achieving, that demand can sound a lot like the energetic pulse of a manic phase. So this external pressure doesn't just encourage mania, it can actually trigger it or make an episode so much worse. It pushes the brain's natural rhythm way past its breaking point.
And we really have to be clear here, this is different from other conditions. One of the key differences between bipolar disorder and, say, ADHD is that the mania in bipolar disorder happens in distinct, elevated episodes. It's a huge shift from a person's normal baseline. It's not a constant state of being like the hyperactivity you often see with ADHD. Okay, so if the problem is this culture of constant, nonstop performance, what's the solution? Let's totally switch gears now and look at the science, the actual science that proves the power of doing the exact opposite, resting.
So the antidote here isn't another productivity hack. It's not a new wellness app. It's something way more radical, and honestly, way more countercultural. It is simply, and profoundly, doing nothing. Real recovery comes from subtracting things from your life, not adding more.
Because here's the amazing thing science tells us. A resting brain is anything but lazy. When you stop focusing on a task, this whole network of brain regions called the default mode network, or DMN, it just lights up.
You can think of it as your brain's crucial internal processing mode. It's what happens when you're just staring out the window.
And what is it doing back there? Some of its most important work. Your DMN is busy consolidating memories, which is how you actually learn. It's engaging in self-reflection, making sense of your life and who you are. And maybe my favorite, it's fostering creativity. It's where all those brilliant aha moments come from, the ones that only show up when you finally stop trying so hard to find them.
And get this, our own bodies are trying to tell us this all the time. Our brains naturally work on something called an ultraradian rhythm. It's about 90 minutes of high focus, followed by a natural 20-minute dip where we really need to rest and recharge. Hustle culture is basically a demand that we ignore our own biology.
All right, so all of this brings us to our final section, the art of nothing. How do we actually reclaim stillness in a world that is constantly in motion? This question from writer Carrie Cantwell just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Why do I always have to be doing something? We've been programmed, literally trained to feel guilty when we're not being productive. But what if we could unlearn that? What if we could just exist?
Byung-Chul Han gives us this really beautiful way to think about this. He talks about two kinds of tired. There's I-tiredness. That's the lonely, isolating exhaustion of pure burnout. It separates you. But then there's we-tiredness, and that's totally different. It's a deep, collective kind of rest. It's the kind of tired that lets wonder back into your life and reconnects you with the world and with other people.
So I'll leave you with this to chew on. In a world that is obsessed, completely obsessed, with what you can do, what you can produce, what you can achieve, what if the most powerful, the most radical, and the most healing thing you could possibly accomplish is to do nothing at all?